Awesome. Jennifer picked other. Sole librarian does everything. Yes, we know many of those. We worked with libraries for many, many years and just are so impressed with the range of libraries that are very small and massive. And it's amazing how, no matter the size, the work that you all do for the community is amazing. So as you're coming in, folks, we are completing a poll today. What best describes your role? And we're going to get started in another minute. Just let a couple more folks jump on the line. Great to see some familiar faces today. Let us know where you're calling in from in the chat. We love to see where folks are joining us from. I'm in Philadelphia. My colleagues are actually from coast to coast here. Robin's in the Pacific Northwest. Emily's down in Houston. Courtney's in Idaho. Wonderful. We have folks from Georgia, from Florida, from Washington. Wilmington, Delaware, you're not too far from me. Kendra, I'm in Philadelphia. Cumberland County, oh, you're close to Terry. Folks from Georgia, wonderful. Baltimore. Hi, welcome, Tiffany. We got some Arizona folks, some Outer Banks folks. Rural Northwest Illinois, Savannah, Georgia. Love to see the spread. Montana, that's great. We've worked with libraries in all of these places, and we're so excited that you're joining us today. I'm going to get started. So you are here to help us celebrate citizen science in libraries. We are members of the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. Well, let's get started first today with our agenda and our speakers. So hi, everyone. I'm Tara Cox. I'm Assistant Director of Programs at the National Girls Collaborative Project, and I am a project director at SciStarter working on the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network. I am joined by Robin Salthouse, our most important library specialist that helps us design all of our resources with libraries in mind. She's going to tell you a little bit about the program origins, how this all got started. Then I'm joined by Emily Early, Senior Network Manager at the National Girls Collaborative, and also the manager of our National Library Network. And she's going to tell us about how we've expanded all of this work that we've been doing with libraries. And then we have a very special guest. You're going to be joined by Courtney Deonda, Adult Services Librarian at the Nampa Public Library in Nampa, Idaho, who's going to tell you a little bit about citizen science in action, what she's doing in her library, using all of the resources and how she's engaging her community in citizen science. All right, Emily, what does the poll tell us? Who is with us today?
Great. So we asked what best describes your role today. We had 10% said they were a library director or administrator, 35% said children or youth librarian, 10% said adult services librarian. We had 10% other library staff, and then 10% that said they were a curious observer, and 25% said other.
Awesome. So good news is the resources and the network is for everyone, including non-librarian folks from community-based organizations. So there's something here for everyone today. All right, so you may not all be familiar with the concept of citizen science. That's what we've been celebrating all month. It is National Citizen Science Month. And citizen science is a global movement that connects scientists doing real science research with the community, so that you can start to participate in this research and expand the opportunities for people to engage and make a difference in things that they really care about. These are some just quick, fun facts about things that have been discovered because of citizen science. Because of citizen science, we know, for example, that there are 50+ types of bacteria that live in our belly buttons. We couldn't have done that without the citizen scientists who volunteered to swab their belly buttons and send that information back to scientists. We also know that there's a new aurora, I think it's in Alaska, that a citizen science discovered, and because it was a citizen scientist, they got to name the aurora and they named it Steve. We know that bird populations have been declining by 50%. I'm sure right now, many of us are in the heart of spring and we are watching and observing birds, listening to bird sounds, watching our trees bloom. There's so much opportunity, especially right now, to engage in citizen science and to learn about and contribute to data so that scientists know what's happening in our backyards. And this one I love too. In 2019, 2,566 research hours were accomplished by citizen scientists, which is the equivalent to 3.5 months in a lab, all contributing to Alzheimer's research. So that is really why we're doing all of this. Citizen science helps accelerate scientific research, and it helps broaden the scope of who is participating in science. So curious, have you ever participated in citizen science before today's event? Let's do a quick poll and see what results we get.
We'll give it another minute or so here. Looks like most of you have answered. Oh, we have 3 more. See if we can get them in. Okay, great.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say 92%. We'll take that. So I'm gonna end the poll. I'll share the results. So it looks like 78% of you have participated in a citizen science project or event before today. So that's wonderful. And then 22% said not yet. And we're hopeful you will participate after the webinar today.
Wow, that's really strong results. And that bodes well for libraries doing this work. And that's why we are building this network, which I'll tell you a little bit about now. So in, I think last May-ish, we launched this National Citizen and Community Science Library Network to sort of provide a suite of resources to libraries who want to become community hubs to citizen science. Many libraries were already starting their own citizen science initiatives or working with SciStarter through various projects or just starting things on their own. We wanted to start to build this network and get together so that we can share resources, build capacity of libraries so that they have the confidence and skills to engage their communities in citizen science. So please, we encourage you to go to that website that Emily put in the chat and sign up to become a part of the network, which really just means it's free. It means you'll receive our newsletter and you'll receive all of the opportunities, the free professional development opportunities and updated resources that we share regularly. So the goal of this network really starts with building the library capacity in order for the libraries to support their communities to engage in citizen science or community science, as some of you might be calling it. One of the goals is to broaden participation. As I said before, we know that you all serve very diverse communities that sometimes are marginalized and haven't had the chance to participate in citizen science. So by bringing citizen science to libraries, our goal is to broaden that participation and then ultimately to accelerate scientific research in the various forms of citizen science that are featured on the SciStarter website, which I will tell you about in just a second. As I mentioned, there's a couple of different approaches that we're taking, the benefits of the network. First is professional development. We have been leading some live webinars throughout the year around building citizen science kits, hosting citizen science events in your library. We're going to continue to do that. Our webinar series is going to launch back up. This is our last webinar for this kind of program year, and we're going to launch back up in September. We also have self-guided training tutorials. If you go to that library network page, it'll guide you to all of this. We have great self-guided training tutorials that help build your understanding of citizen science. And there's actually a part 2 training specifically for libraries. And you can take that training, and once you complete it, you can earn a badge to add a digital badge to go on your LinkedIn. And then there's also other resources as well, like the Library and Community Guide for Citizen Science. We've also started to develop program resources, such as these BuildAKit Guides. So I'm going to tell you about that in just a second, but Emily will put that link in the chat. These are great, and Courtney has been using those. She'll tell you a little bit about to build one of the kits. And along with those, there's promotional materials as well. So you can build a citizen science kit to help make these projects more accessible to your audience. And then we've tried to think of all of the promotional resources, bookmarks, checkout cards, ads that you can put on Facebook. And then ultimately, one of the goals is to bring this network of libraries that are doing this work together so that you all can share. We've started a Facebook group that many people have already joined, sharing how they've been engaging in citizen science. As I mentioned, we have a network newsletter that goes out a couple of times a year, many times a year. We don't have a regular schedule quite yet, but kind of as opportunities come up, we've been scheduling this newsletter. So please sign up for that. And that newsletter features updated resources, examples of how libraries are doing citizen science. And often we'll have other funders come to us and say, hey, we have some money that we'd like to give to libraries. Can you help us promote this opportunity? So that's another reason to sign up for the newsletter. And also the Library Network email. We started this email library network at SciStarter.org, and you can email us and we are there to help guide you to our resources and answer your questions about becoming a community hub for citizen science. So one of the resources that I wanted to highlight today are these BuildAKit Guides. It's a little blurry, but as you see, there are 6 different projects that we've designed BuildAKit Guides for. There's 4 currently finished, and then 2 are on their way. They'll be launched in late summer, early fall. These kits are soup to nuts, everything that you need to be able to participate in citizen science project, like the Observing Pollinators project, which I know is very, very popular amongst libraries. We include in that kit, in the BuildAKit guide, all links to the materials for you to purchase, the activity guides, additional data collection sheets, anything that your library users might need to be able to complete these projects. And many libraries are starting to fund these kits through LSTA grant programs and through their friends and family groups. So if you're curious about how libraries are funding these kits, I think Courtney can tell you a little bit about how she was able to fund hers. So give you a little insight into that, but they're choosing different approaches to funding these kits. Ultimately, I wanted to end with all of this is made possible by SciStarter, which is an online hub for citizen science. You can go today, I encourage you to make an account. You can go on and search for projects that are meaningful to you specifically, not just as librarians, but as people. And you can also think about what projects might be relevant to your communities. It doesn't have to be tied to one of the kits. You can search by local projects, and many, many citizen science projects are hyper local, looking at streams nearby or air quality in certain areas. So you can go on today, make an account, and go to that project finder and look for projects that are meaningful to your community. Okay, that was just a little bit about the program. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We are great at just answering them throughout. So feel free to throw questions in the chat throughout, but we will have a lot of time for questions at the end as well. All right, I'm going to toss it to Robin to talk about the origins of this program.
Thanks, Tara. Welcome, everyone. I want to tell you about how I got involved in this project and how it all started. So we'll go to the next slide. I was the librarian supervisor at the Gilbert, a branch, part of the Maricopa County Library District in Gilbert, Arizona. And we were asked by the Arizona State University group that received an Institute of Museum and Library Sciences grant to work with them to see how libraries could act as hubs for citizen science. There were 6 different locations across Maricopa County or the Phoenix metropolitan area. And we started this venture by inviting the public, library users, and community-based organizations to stakeholder meetings where we discussed how we could get people involved in participating in real scientific research. And by getting that information, we started the idea of kits that centered around and supported specific citizen science projects. Another way we gathered information from our communities was through a poster and book display many of us put up during the 2018 Citizen Science Day. It occurred on an April Saturday. And the poster you see in the lower right-hand corner was what we called a passive programming activity, We put this, as you see on the tabletop display, in a book display and had little leaf-shaped Post-it notes and encouraged people to answer the questions that we posed in the poster. You know, are you involved in any kind of scientific research? What scientific issues or science issues concern or interest you? And those Post-it notes were then added to the information we got from the stakeholder meeting to decide what kits we were going to put into our collection and offer with directions and the tools needed to participate in these citizen science projects. So the fall of 2018, we had 3 kits ready and started circulating them to our library users. One thing that came out of the Citizen Science Day was that it wasn't enough time. People wanted more than one day to celebrate citizen science, especially institutions like schools who don't hold classes on Saturday. Plus, one day just isn't enough time to even begin addressing the thousands of projects that are going around not only somebody's neighborhood or town, but around the world. So in 2019, Citizen Science Month came into being. Next slide. So Citizen Science Month, which is happening right now, is a great way to bring attention to this movement. And one way for librarians to get going and understand what it's all about is, as Tara mentioned earlier, to download and read the Library and Community Guide to Citizen Science, which can be found at the SciStarter.org/library guide link. Here you're going to find letters, sample letters to send to subject experts who can help you promote projects and make people better understand what citizen science and scientific research is all about. There's a checklist to help you plan programs and even a quick start guide to just get you started within minutes of what you should do next to get your program up and running. We also, through this pilot program, helped SciStarter and ASU create branded materials to help promote the program. At the Gilbert Library, we used a floor stand that you see in this picture that had rack cards, and customers, library users could come up to this poster and find out, oh, citizen science, what is that all about? And then the rack cards would tell them what projects were available, if the kit was available to check out at that time, or if you needed to put yourself on a waiting list. So make sure that you visit the SciStarter library website that we've been putting in to the chat to find out all the different resources that are available to you. And then finally, on the next slide, I'd like to tell you, I'd like to tell you how the network's grown in Arizona. So in Arizona, there's now over 30 different libraries that are involved in citizen science. And a large part is due to the Arizona State Library providing those LSTA, or Library Services and Technology Act grants that Tara talked about earlier. In Arizona, the State Library has offered now 3 years of $3,000 grants for those who have applied and been accepted. And we've even found that several of the libraries in Arizona have gone beyond the kit offerings found on the SciStarter website and created their own through projects they found that are of particular interest to their communities. So one things we found through this initial phase 1 project is libraries and patrons who participated in the pilot project reported increased interest and knowledge of citizen science, as well as confidence in their ability to collect and interpret data. In fact, 92% of the participants, the majority being women and are underrepresented in STEM, expressed interest in checking out another citizen science kit, and scientists reported a notable increase in data. We actually saw this in a project out of Arizona with which you can participate using the Measuring Light in the Night kit. That project or kit supports the Globe at Night kit, which tracks light pollution around the world. This scientist who leads that project saw shortly after those kits were circulated from our libraries a noticeable increase in data points around the Phoenix metropolitan area. And if you want to see which libraries in Arizona or around the US are participating in this program, make sure you go to SciStarter.org/tools. And if you are offering programs and kits for citizen science, make sure you go down to the bottom of that map and put your information for your library. So library users, scientists, and others can find you on this map. Okay, and then finally, I want to just end by giving you a couple more ideas of what you can do to promote citizen science in your libraries. So one thing that we did at the library I worked at in Gilbert was to create a citizen science project at the library. We installed a purple air monitor, which measures air quality, and then we would put a sign out by it to explain what was going on. So I don't know if you can see that little white dot here in the back of the picture is actually a purple air monitor. We did need access to Wi-Fi, so it could broadcast 24/7 the live air quality readings, and a plug to, give it electricity. But if you can read the sign, it explains what's going on, how to access the data, and that they could get involved in citizen science by going to the SciStarter website or coming into the library to talk to staff more about what citizen science was all about. Another idea is to offer book discussions. Of course, the guide to citizen science, the field guide to citizen science, is a great way to start. It explains what citizen science is about, how it impacts your community and the scientific world, and it gives month-by-month project suggestions to get involved in. I'd also encourage you to look at the National Network for Library of Medicine book discussion titles. Those are all related to health and science and would make another great possibility for book discussions. And don't forget about your community-based organizations. In Gilbert, Arizona, we really relied and benefited from the amateur astronomers. East Valley Astronomy Club came into the library regularly to offer free programs. And that gave me the perfect opportunity to promote the Measuring Light in the Night kit. Programs where you offer hands-on experience with the kits, like the exploring biodiversity through BioBlitzes, where you go out into the outside world and make observations through their app of any living organism, from fungus to plants to animals, and report it to a cloud database where scientists and everyday people can look and find organisms around the world, when and how many times they've been observed and uploaded in the database. And finally, don't forget to use your library webpage. The one illustrated in the lower right-hand corner of this slide shows you the Pima County Public Library's website, and that's located in the Tucson, Arizona, where they've used our video in the upper left-hand side of their webpage to provide book lists and links to their kits, so people who may not even be aware that they're offering community science now have information online to find out all about community or citizen science. Okay, now I'm going to turn the program over to Emily Early.
Thanks, Robin. So now that Robin took you through kind of the origins of this project and how the project started in Arizona, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we are expanding nationally, including hosting these webinars like the one you're a part of today. So we did receive another grant for the Institute for Museum and Library Services and from the Moore Foundation to continue this work, which is very exciting. and to start scaling nationally. So the first thing we kind of did was think about, I'll go through in a moment, some of the goals for the pilot project that we're currently working on. But we put out a request for proposals to libraries across the country to be part of a pilot project. 10 libraries were accepted into that pilot project. And the goals for this were really to start scaling these resources nationally and seeing how they might work in communities across the country, not just in Arizona, but seeing how these kits might work in different states and different communities. So what were we trying to find out through this project? We've been trying to figure out how to develop a scalable kit building model. We're also trying to figure out how to promote and share the kits and resources, again, with communities across the country, and what those differences might be when we're talking about the entire country versus a single state. We're also trying to figure out how to partner with libraries nationally to study this model. And we are doing this through this pilot project with those 10 libraries that you saw on the map in the previous slide. And then we're also doing this through the national network that hopefully you're a part of, and through these webinar series. And then finally, we're trying to understand how kits can be used by under-resourced audiences through community-based organizations. So all of these pilot libraries are also partnering with community-based organizations. Like Robin mentioned, in Arizona, many libraries did this as well, but they're partnering with organizations such as amateur astronomers, the 4-H, Girl Scouts, and lots of others, homeschool groups, lots of other groups that they're probably already partnering with in their community, to see how they can partner with them to scale these resources and these kits even further, and develop those community relationships. So in terms of the project timeline, we did start this work. We released the application last summer, and then we accepted the pilot libraries, I believe, in August. And then from September to December of last year, we hosted a webinar series just for these 10 pilot libraries to start to give them information about how to build the kits and how to partner with their community to promote the kits. And a few other topics so that they could get ready to start circulating the kits in January. So most of the pilot libraries were able to build their kits and get them circulating by January of this year. And they've been circulating those kits both with their community, so through the library, and also by partnering with organizations in their community for the last about 4 months. And then currently we're in this reflect and evaluate stage of the project, where we actually just had a wrap-up webinar for this project last week. And our evaluators are now kind of stepping in. They led some focus groups with the libraries last week so that we can learn from them about the challenges and successes of this project. And then as a project team, we're going to be taking all of that feedback that our evaluators are gathering, all of those data points, and making some changes to the kits this summer. Some of them kit materials and other materials on our website. We're actually also doing some refreshing to our website itself this summer, so that hopefully the resources are even easier to use and more applicable to audiences all across the country. So we'll be doing some editing and revising this summer. So I also wanted to go through a little bit of the national pilot impact data. This is just preliminary findings. Our evaluators, as I mentioned, are still gathering data. They're going to be doing some evaluating with the community-based organizations that these libraries have worked with. So we're still gathering information, but this is some of the preliminary data that we wanted to share with you. So of the 10 pilot libraries that we're working with, they've created at least 100 citizen science kits. They are circulating those kits at 23 library locations. Across those 10 libraries, they've held 15 events, which included bio blitzes, virtual story times, kit unboxing videos that folks have made, They went to job fairs to promote the kits. They had Master Gardener events, Earth Day events, and other exciting community events as well. They also identified 32 community-based partners to partner with. So some of that outreach resulted in checking out kits to those community organizations. Sometimes they co-promoted the kits to the community, and they also co-hosted events such as partnering with the Master Gardener or with astronomers in their area to talk about the science kind of behind these kits. And then I also wanted to highlight on the left, you can see some photos there from the pilot library. Some of those were social media posts and promotions that they did, or they were promoting events that they were hosting in their community. So they did a really great job of pushing the resources out there and making their communities aware that this existed and that they could participate in citizen science. And then finally, I just wanted to go through kind of what's next, right? So we are currently analyzing findings from the pilot libraries. Our evaluators are still gathering information, as I mentioned, and we'll be working this summer to improve the citizen science kits and the promotional resources that we offer on our website. We're also sharing our findings and resources more broadly with the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network. Just like we are today, we want to continue to kind of spread the message of citizen science, spread these resources as widely as we can to get as many folks participating in this. And then we're also working, especially this summer and looking into next year, into recruiting even more libraries to become hubs for citizen science. That's really the goal of this network, and that's the goal of us putting out all of these resources, or is that we can hopefully engage with librarians and learn from you about what you need, and that you can get involved by also building and circulating kits, creating book displays, hosting events, and more in your community. So I am going to turn it over to Courtney Deanda, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about how she got involved with citizen science at her library, Nampa Public Library, and what that looked like for her.
Thank you. So yeah, my name's Courtney, and I am the Adult Services Librarian at Nampa Public Library in Idaho. And I'm going to share a little bit about how we started getting citizen science in our library and then what we did for Citizen Science Month. So in the summer of 2020, I was tasked with creating a kit collection for adults to offer to our community because at the time we were unable to do in-person programs. And because of that, we were able to reallocate some of our program funds to building kits for checkout. This was a fun project, and it was really interesting to find different kits for our community. And as it got going, our kits were checking out regularly, but I soon realized that there was a little bit of a gap in our kit collection. At Nampa Public, we strive to promote and spark lifelong learning. And while many of our kits were about learning and trying something new, none of them involved science or other STEM subjects. And we want to cover a wide area of interest with our collection. And so when I happened across citizen science, I thought this would be a great chance to fill that gap because it's giving adults opportunity to participate in actual ongoing science research. So that sounded beneficial and appealing for my community. So we used the kit building guides. They were great resources. And we were able to add 2 of the Measuring Light in the Night and 2 of the Exploring Biodiversity kits. And the guides were really easy to use. They had lists of everything that you needed, links to where you buy them, and like printable documents. So that was all really great and helping us build those kits. When we first launched these kits, we weren't able to do in-person programs, so we had to find a way to generate interest. Virtual programming for us was very hit and miss, and so it was more beneficial to create visual interest within the library. So we created a display in our kit area, a big poster about citizen science that kind of explained what it was and how to get involved, and then information on the individual kits that we had available. We also shared over social media and other posters that we put throughout the library. And it was a little slow at first when people are just starting to learn about what they are in our area, but now those kits do check out pretty regularly. And this picture is the kit that we just launched this month. We used the Cricut to add the eyes to it because we thought it looked like a cute little ghost. But we were able to purchase 8 of these kits with the grant from the National Network Library of Medicine, one of their mini programming awards, which they had focused on Citizen Science Month. Next slide. So for this award, we partnered with the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, and with them provided 2 workshops for Citizen Science Month. This was our first time doing an in-person program for citizen science, and so we were a little unsure of what to expect, but I mean, it went pretty well. The DEQ sent out 3 guys, and they talked about the equipment they use for monitoring. They talked about the air quality index, how it's used, and how they come about those numbers, the current status of the air quality in the Treasure Valley, and what we can do to impact positive change. We learned that air quality can impact health, and it can even affect crop yields. And for our area, the 2 largest contributors are vehicle emissions and burning, whether it's open burning or wildfires. And then during the discussion of the devices, they were able to explain some of the differences between the devices they use, which you can see in the picture on the table. They're big monitors that they use, and then kind of the difference between the devices that we have in the kits, the little air beam monitors. And so that was helpful for people to understand, while like the little air beam is, yes, it's still collecting data, it's not going to be quite on the same level as their big monitors are, but it's still beneficial. So once they were finished with their presentation, I was able to jump in and kind of share with the group about the kits that we were launching and how to use them and what the benefits are, how to gather, where to find the data for that also. So to begin with, we only had the kits available at the workshops. So it was kind of, you come to the workshop, you can check out the kit. And since we had our last workshop yesterday, now the remaining kits are out in the open for anybody to check out. To kind of get the word out about our workshops, we shared on social media, our library calendar, posted it on some of our community calendars, and then we also sent out like an email blast to the local schools to kind of gather interest from various demographics. In addition to the kits, we were also able to install a purple air monitor, like Robin was mentioning that she did at her library. And we have that on the 3rd floor on our terrace, so people can walk out and look at the device. And we have a link on our website that goes directly to the feed for that device. And then the map, you can zoom out and see all the ones in the surrounding area. We think that maybe April may not have been the best time to talk about air quality, because for our area, so when air quality is the best, we got lots of rain and stuff and the air is pretty clear. So we're thinking of maybe doing another set of programs in the end of the summer and the fall, where we have a lot more smog and smoke from wildfires. So we may continue this into the summer, depending on if the DEQ is willing to come out again. Next slide. So the groups we had for each workshop were pretty small, so it garnered a lot of discussion. There was lots of time for questions, and the people who came were very engaged and interested in the topic. They gave really positive feedback about the presentation and asked lots of questions. And having this been one of our first few in-person programs, we're still learning. We feel like we're relearning about when people are interested in coming to the library for programs. And I'm sure many other people are kind of in the same boat. So even though we didn't have a ton of people at our workshops and we didn't check out all the kits at the workshops, our citizen science kits do check out really well. So I'm confident that this project will get into the hands of many individuals over the next few months. And our plans are to continue adding more citizen science kits to our collection and promoting other projects to our community.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find my mute. Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing. And, you know, Courtney was not one of our pilot libraries. So it goes to show you that there are libraries starting to use these resources organically, which is amazing. And we're so grateful that you found our website. And, you know, Courtney sent us an email, and Robin and Courtney were doing some corresponding. So again, this is all part of this, this network that we're trying to build. And we encourage you to do the same. So if you have any questions for Courtney or Robin or Emily or me, put them in the chat. And let me just tell you about a couple of upcoming opportunities. Actually, let's throw this poll up there. So now that you kind of heard about the network, the resources, and directly from 2 librarians who have been doing this work, are you likely to bring citizen science to your community? Maybe you're already doing it. So if you are already doing it, you can say that you are likely to do it. I'm curious. Emily, did you launch the poll?
Yep, folks are currently answering.
Awesome.
53%, 60, 64%. We'll give it another minute or so. Okay, we got
All right,
75%,
yeah, go ahead.
so I'll go ahead in the poll and share the results. So it looks like 76% said very likely to bring citizen science to your community after the webinar today. 14% said somewhat likely, and then 10% said unsure.
All right. If you are unsure, email us. If you are likely and somewhat likely, email us too. And participate in some of our upcoming opportunities. Firstly, I mentioned that we had a bunch of webinars. We hosted a bunch of webinars in September and in November and in this winter. All of those are featured, they're recorded, and you can find them at our YouTube, on the SciStarter YouTube page. There's a special playlist for the library network. Some of those webinars are just how to introduce your community to citizen science, how to host an event, and then a deeper dive into building those citizen science kits that we were talking about. We will relaunch this series again in September with new webinars. Again, we'll be sharing a lot of the same strategies, but with new resources. So we encourage you to attend those, to encourage your staff to attend those, to watch the recordings, and join the network. All right, folks, any questions? Feel free to type them in the chat. We are here to answer them. And just thank you to Courtney and Robin and to Emily for presenting on the work that we've been doing. And especially thanks to those pilot libraries and the Arizona libraries, all the libraries that have been participating in Citizen Science Month and bringing citizen science to their communities. We really commend your work, and we think there's a lot of potential and opportunity here. So what questions do you have for us? That's right. And Robin, thank you for reminding me. If you already have a citizen science kit, you can add it to the library locations map and be featured on the SciStarter website so that folks can find your kits if they're searching for them.
So while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, I am going to put the direct link to our interest form for joining the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network in the chat. It's a Google form. We ask if you're interested at all in this work or in keeping up with what we're doing and getting our newsletter, that you fill out this quick interest form, and then that gets you on our mailing list. And we will be in contact with you, like I said, through the newsletter, and we'll also tell you about upcoming webinars and other events that we will host in the fall.
So we have a question from Thomas in the chat. What advice do you have in getting a program started when all the libraries in my county are county run? I'm gonna let Robin or Courtney tackle this because you're more of the expert, but I do want to say this, and it came to mind earlier as well. If you are thinking about opportunities for funding or looking for funding, we've had some success talking to state librarians about LSTA or grant programs. We've been able to share kind of what our advice is with those folks. So if you want to share, we encourage you, in other words, to share this webinar, share the information about the kits in the network with your state librarians, and give them that library network email. And we're happy to let them know a little bit more about the benefits and the resources and how to structure a grant opportunity to build these in your state. And I was thinking about in the county as well, if you county administrators. But Robin or Courtney, do you have any advice for Thomas?
Well, I guess I'm wondering if Thomas is a librarian, certainly you want to talk to your supervisor and or administrators about this. And then again, look at the library guide to get things started. Oh, okay, thanks, Thomas. But if you're a library user, a citizen, a project scientist, the best thing is to approach a librarian or a supervisor, or I know in the system I worked at, one of our top administrators went from 2 branches that were the pilot library to funding all of our libraries. So it might be a bit tricky, but try to work up through maybe the branch manager, or if you're friendly with the librarian, who the person is that can help make decisions about this. And, have some information ready for them. Please be aware as you do this, and Courtney can certainly confirm this, libraries right now are really stressed with all the responsibilities and the fact that staffing is kind of all over the place due to people calling out and actually retiring. But if you can sit down and have a conversation with the right person at the library, show them the SciStarter information, all the resources we showed you today. Probably the library network site is the best place for them to start, and tell them that, hey, there's funding available possibly through our state library. I even know in my area, the Kiwanis and, service groups like that fund libraries for different reasons. In Pima County, the Friends of the Library actually beefed up their citizen science kits. So, have solutions ready for them to help them understand funding isn't necessarily all on them. And it might take some time to get this going, so be patient. And then finally, if you are a subject expert, like you're part of a Master Gardener program, you're a beekeeper, you're part of the astronomy club, or I know you may not be, but if you're a Girl Scout leader, because Girl Scouts offers journeys that connect with citizen science, offer that help to them, just because they have many times libraries are approached by many groups who want things to happen there. So hopefully that helps you kind of think through a process to get this started in your library system, and maybe ask them to try it at just one library and build up like we did at the Maricopa County Library District in Arizona.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah, no, College Science Club is the perfect place, especially if you guys are biologists, that iNaturalist, exploring biodiversity kit is perfect, a perfect way to start. If you're willing to help with the BioBlitz, where you're there to help people identify, and you really don't even need to know a lot about living organisms. The iNaturalist app has grown to such an extent that the artificial intelligence now pretty much figures out what your picture is, and as you load it to the iNaturalist cloud database. So, but when we did our BioBlitz in Gilbert, Arizona, we had people from the local university, from the National Forest Service, and they were so helpful in identification, how to take good pictures, and just their knowledge of the subject of biodiversity really engaged the people. So Thomas, you're one of the perfect people to help get this started in your area.
I was going to say just that, thinking about formalizing a partnership between the university and the library, especially as an outreach partner to the community-based organizations that libraries are so well connected to. We've seen that in many other projects that we've worked on. So that's another approach as well. Any other questions for us today? We have about 8 more minutes. Go ahead, Robin.
I wanted to ask Courtney. Courtney, you're actually working in a library now. I'm retired. Do you have anything to add to Thomas's question?
I would just say that I think it would be beneficial to approach someone at a library, because for libraries to apply for grants for these kinds of things, they need community partners. And if he's approaching them as a community partner, they'll be more able to maybe move forward with finding a grant that would fund this.
Absolutely. Or I was even thinking universities could have some of that funding as well.
Yeah.
And to help support the library. So partnerships are great at the National Girls Collaborative Project. That is what we love to do. We think they're so beneficial, and at SciStarter as well. That this work wouldn't be able to be done without partnership between the project scientists and the libraries and the community-based organizations. So we encourage you to really think about how these partnerships can help you with funding, help with broadening audiences. We already know you're doing that work very well. I think the citizen science work fits right into that. Any other questions? Otherwise, we could end the webinar a little bit early today. We'll give it another minute. Is there any other slides here? Nope. All right, folks, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And we are excited to see all of the engagement. Join that Facebook group if you are a librarian. Join the Citizen and Community Science Library Facebook group. Yes, the webinar, it will be recorded, and we're going to send it out in a follow-up email, as well as with all the links that we talked about today. So feel free, please, to share that back with your communities. We'll put the Facebook group link in the chat for you, Kendra. Thanks, everyone. Happy Citizen Science Month. We have a couple of days left, so get out there and celebrate in any way that you can. See you on the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone.